I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back to Focus Today, and we've covered it in the news. We've had Sharre Whitson here with us every now and then. It's time for another update because we've got it's not totally unique, but it is surprising. I think that a lot of people are surprised when they hear about sexual trafficking and slavery, really, that goes along Interstate 5, and of course it cuts right through the metro areas of Oregon. From Medford to Portland, and this is a problem that I know Redemption Ridge is trying to really come to terms and say we can get some of these people who are trapped in this off the streets. So I'm sure we're talking to some people who say, boy, I didn't realize this was a big problem. You're probably facing that all the time. Some people say, yeah, I knew it was a problem, but others are saying, so what are you talking about here? This is a big deal. Let's get an update. Redemption Ridge opened how long ago? Was that your center opened?
The resource center where we do outpatient services opened in January of last year.
Okay, the dedication of all that and all.
Yeah, that was January of last year, and during that time we've experienced last year a 600% increase in the amount of survivors that have come forward. And this year, in the first 6 months alone, we've already doubled all of last year. And we're seeing it continue to increase and just grow at a ridiculous rate, an alarming rate. Yeah. We know it's one of the fastest growing crimes in the United States, but when you see it hit right in your own town and you see those lives impacted by it, it's just very devastating.
Okay, this increase, how are you finding that people are finding out about you to be able to get off the streets?
Well, there's multiple ways that they find out about us. Social service providers, law enforcement, emergency rooms. We also have a 24-hour helpline where somebody can call. And then just as there's more awareness and identification happening, I think that is bringing people forward. And then we're also on the National Trafficking Hotline. So if somebody were to call the National Trafficking Hotline, in the state of Oregon, we're the only restorative provider. While there's other providers, we're the only ones right now that are listed on the National Trafficking Hotline. And so we receive those calls as well.
And I imagine it's very helpful when, for example, the police or other agencies like that know about you. They're the first responders to a situation that may have gone really, really bad. And they can help get somebody off the street who otherwise wouldn't know about what it is you're doing. And I want to talk about Grace House because this has been a project that you've had. That's part of Redemption Ridge.
Yes.
Give the perspective. What is Grace House designed to do?
So when you look at anybody who's been trafficked, restorative care is very important, and they've been trafficked 5 to 15 times a day. So an equivalent over a year, let's say, in most cases it's 2 years before they're recovered on an average. That's well over 1,000 times that they've been trafficked. And so residential programming is really important, where you can wrap all that care around them therapeutically, educationally, especially for minor children who have suffered this complex trauma. So Grace House is a residential program that offers therapy, education, support services, love, and care for trafficked minors, because if they don't have a place to go, they will return to the only thing they know, and their pimp will find them and they'll end up being trafficked again. And so Grace House is the only restorative care residential program that will be south of Portland, and then the only one that can serve 16, 17-year-olds, which is a very common age that they're recovered here in the state of Oregon. Unless they were trafficked in Portland, then there's one program that can serve them. So it is critical.
Wow.
Yeah, for a 16, 17-year-old. In total, there's only 2 residential programs in the entire state of Oregon that can meet this need. Right now, children are being placed out of our state. Several are being returned home to often unideal situations. And so this is a critical care need in our community, is to have this residential home open.
And I know you've been working on completing it and
Yes.
remodeling it. Where are you in that? Is it completed now?
It is almost done. We are well into the construction phase. The water lines went in. We have another inspection there. All the interior framing, all the beds were purchased. Thank you. All the viewers here, they helped get those beds. That has been done. Siding's gone up, insulation's going in, drywall after that. And so the project has come a long ways. Right now, we're in the process of raising some money for the security systems, because you can imagine how critical that is. Pimps are not happy that we've rescued girls, and so we want to make sure we keep them safe. That's why the location is confidential, but still, we need a high security system to make sure everybody remains safe, including our team that will be there.
And how many will you be able to have staying there who have been taken off the streets?
Grace House has 7 beds, and 6 of those will be designated for longer term care, whereas one of them is more of that shorter term, because right now if a girl is recovered here in Medford, and we've had several cases already, they need an immediate place to go during that initial assessment time, and what is in the best interest and care of this child who has gone through this complex trauma. A lot of times people think, well, it doesn't happen to good families. Some of these kids do come from what we would define as good families, and having them go back home would be a good placement, but there needs to be that whole wraparound care. And so that emergency bed is going to be really important to help us during that first determining time of how can we wrap care around this child in the best way, whether it's residential or not.
And those, the other 6 then, is that for 2.5 years? You said they need a long period of time. Are you prepared for that?
What is wonderful about this whole program is that it is customized for each child. Resiliency plays a factor into that. All of them have suffered the complex trauma, but it's unique how each of us can respond to trauma. And so for some, it could be 2 years. For others, it could be 9 months. It's going to be whatever it takes to help them have that restoration in their life and have a healthy transition. That's our ultimate goal, is for them to be able to have a happy and healthy and joyous life after trauma has occurred, that they do not have to be their trauma.
All right. Let me ask you about the age. You've alluded a little bit to those who are minors as well as those who are younger. What is the general age of the people who are being taken off the streets who have been in sex trafficking? What are you seeing? Are they teenagers mostly?
Well, for minors, nationally, the statistics state that the average age of entry into sex trafficking is 13 to 14-year-olds.
Oh, wow. And you've had them that young, have you?
We've had 14. In the state of Oregon, I know there's a documented case of an 8-year-old. That's not somebody that we've served. And then statistically, they could be trafficked up to 2 years before recovery. So you might see a lot of that 16, 17-year-old. But it's not just our minors, and that's why Redemption Ridge also has a resource center, because that 16-year-old, 17-year-old turns 19. Turns 20, and they're in and out of that trafficking once that's occurred to them, when they've never received that healing. And so now what? And so we can serve anybody impacted by trafficking at our outpatient center, our resource center, and then our minors will have the wonderful residential program to wrap around that care.
So it's mostly teens to early 20s? Is that kind of the age group?
Yeah,
range
I'd say your mid-20s, you will see a lot of people come forward in that age too.
You talked about the increase where it, give the numbers since January, it increased, what, 500% you said from a year earlier? Is that right?
I'll just give it the real numbers.
Sure.
In 2015, Redemption Ridge had contact and helped in one way or another 30 survivors. Since June of this year, we were already up to 79.
Wow.
And then just this weekend alone, we had 2 more crisis calls. And in this weekend. Last week, we had 4 people.
So the problem is not improving necessarily, but you are there as that safety net to get them off the streets and get their life turned around. What is the biggest need right now? I mean, I imagine finishing Grace House has to be the big deal there, but is there
Yes.
other needs you have we should know about?
Well, Grace House, definitely. Any way people can support that effort, they can go online, get involved in that. That is critical to have a place. 2 weeks ago, we had to send a kid home to an ideal situation. The other big need is we are serving survivors right now. And we have a need for advocates, crisis line volunteers, hotline volunteers. Even our hotline calls have, doubled this year.
Wow.
And so we really need that support, and we're going to have a volunteer training coming up. We have survivors waiting for an advocate. You might say, what is an advocate? That's somebody who can just love on them and support them during their healing journey. They're not the therapist, they're not a survivor leader, they're just like you and me that say, I will walk with you.
Yeah. Sharre Whitson is the Executive Director of Redemption Ridge. How can people best get in touch with you if they have more questions or they want to help what you're doing?
The easiest way, you can just Google Redemption Ridge. We'll pop up and visit our website, redemptionridge.com.
Probably contact us.
Yes,
kind of
contact us on there so you don't have to remember any phone numbers. Or you can call us, 541-816-4415.
All right, good. Thanks for giving us an update on all of that, and keep us up to date when you have the Grace House done. If we need to give an update on that, just feel free to let us know.
Great, thank you.
All right, coming up, we're going to be turning to presidential politics, and somebody has some thoughts on Hillary Clinton and the whole race between her and Donald Trump. All coming up here on Focus Today.